So I say that as we begin today. Today is a holiday of sorts for some of us. It is the beginning of the NFL football season. Now, that may not mean anything to you, or in fact, you may not like football at all for a number of reasons, and I totally understand that. But in our home, in the fall, football, ever since I was a child, has been part of the regular sort of rhythm of my life. And I can remember just as a child, that sort of background noise just of the game itself just was, I could remember being 8, 9, 10 years old and just resting in my home. And every time I hear commentators with a football game on, it just brings me back to that place. But so my son and I are football fans, and we're looking at our team, and which is the Eagles, and we were looking at how many people were injured. And they give you the injury report, and then all these players we loved were not going to be playing, and they were hurt. And one of the players, the commentator said, "Well, he's going to play, but he'll be playing hurt." And that phrase kind of jumped out at me this week. The idea of someone playing hurt means that they're injured but functioning, that they're not at full capacity, but they're doing the best that they can, and with decreased productivity, but in a lot of pain. And hearing some of the responses today, I felt obligated to share with you that I'm playing hurt today. Today is the 7th anniversary of my father's death, and it's also his birthday. And so it's one of those days where, for me, not for the world, but for me, it's a national day of mourning in our home. Meanwhile, everyone's going about their business, and yet for me, this is an incredibly profound day. So I'm functioning, but I'm not at full capacity today, and I'm doing what I can, but I'm in pain. And 2 days ago, we marked this day in our nation's history where we acknowledged all the grief and all the collective loss. And it reminded me how many people in our nation are playing hurt. And as we heard the joys and concerns, we realize, if we're paying attention, that we're all playing hurt in this life, that we are always at less than full capacity. We're always nursing wounds that we have. We're all living with pain. And we're all doing our best to function as well as we can, given the challenges we have. And I was talking to a friend about the pandemic, and she said, "John, the people affected most by this, it's the hardest for the elderly." And she was telling me why that's particularly challenging for people who are older to deal with this. So she said, this pandemic is hardest on elderly people. And I said, you're right. But you know who else it's hardest on? It's hardest on people living with pre-existing conditions that are terrified to go out. It's hardest on people who recently lost someone and haven't been able to grieve them properly. It's hardest on people living alone who don't have people to sort of share this really difficult time with. It's hardest on people living with a lot of people who can't get any space that they're used to having. It's hardest on parents with young children who are trying to give them some sense of normalcy and take away their fear. It's hardest on parents with teenagers who are trying to help them navigate a usually difficult time and help them grieve things that they're missing. It's hardest on people who have lost a job and don't know how they're going to make up the income that they're losing. It's hardest on couples who are going through a divorce right now and have to live together even though they're being fractured. It's hardest on first-time parents who are having this new experience of raising a child and don't have the people around them that they would normally have. So it's hard on all of us in different ways. And I think it's important for us to remember that pain is not a competition, that we are not trying to evaluate how difficult our lives are in comparison to other people, because in very unique ways, our lives are extremely difficult. I had to go to the doctor recently, had to get some tests. I've been having this sort of migraines, and the doctor asked me a question that doctors like to ask. He said, so tell me, John, on a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being really bad, how bad is the pain? And I said, I'm hoping it's a 9, but it may turn out to only be a 3. I may experience a lot more pain that gets a lot worse, and I sure hope not. I hope this is as painful as things get. So right now it's tempting for us to look at other people and say, well, I'm only dealing with this, and they're dealing with this, and so therefore their pain and their experience and their suffering and their sadness is greater than mine. And I want you to acknowledge how you're playing hurt, the adversity that you have that no one else has, the fear and the questions and the challenges that you're facing that no one else is facing in the way that you're facing them. Why does all this matter? Why is it important to acknowledge the fact that everyone is playing hurt, everyone's living with pain? I think it's because we as people of faith and morality and conscience, we are called to enter into the spaces where people are hurting and to be agents of healing. As a community, as a fellowship, we are to be a community of restoration, of wound tending. And so as we go through these days and as we experience our own losses, as we try to muscle through, we also are available to people to be a source of help and hope and healing for them. And so it's important for me that we remember that we carry both our grieving and our potential to bring healing. Because I think right now, what we're finding as we look around our country is that extremism is attractive. That we're all drawn to passionate, opinionated people, and we're seeing it right now in our country, the way that passion creates a movement and a momentum, how people who are searching for meaning and belonging and hope, and they can get swept up in a fervor that makes them feel part of something bigger than themselves, even if that something is damaging to themselves or others. The desire for belonging is so great, and the fear of being excluded is so powerful, and the pain that we're all feeling is so tremendous that people are invited into communities that give them significance or affinity or a sense of being seen, and they will jump into it, even if that community is objectively unhealthy or inhumane. And I think that's what's been happening for many of us, is that we've been grieving the how of why so many people are embracing something that seems so ugly and so malevolent and so damaging even to them. How can a professed follower of Jesus have this sort of second Messiah who is just cruel? How does a professed constitutional conservative abide the abandoning of the rule of law? How does a person who says that they're pro-life embrace someone who separates children and who takes away health care and who destroys the environment? How do these things happen? How does someone who loves an LGBTQ person vote for someone who sees them as less than human? I think it's because so many people are looking to fill that hole that they have, and so they're going anywhere. And it's important for us because that's who we get to be, because we know that hate is a horribly powerful thing, right? It has a way of metastatizing in people. It has a way of growing. It has a way of bleeding into others. There's this whole momentum of hatred that we're seeing, and this radical extremism is confounding to us. And I think the only way that radical extremism is going to be defeated is through its most radical counterpoint. I think we saw that in what we reflected on at September 11th. We had this horrible act of hatred, but this amazing, beautiful, defiant response to it. We saw the act of violence that was created by this hateful extremism, but then this overwhelming wave of love and response, not just in that day, but in the days following and ever since then. And the extremists are at work today trying to leverage people's woundedness and their fear and their sadness. And just as hate is a horribly powerful thing, love is a beautifully powerful thing. It has always been the antidote to the things that afflict us. It has always been the most powerful force on the planet, and it will always have the last, loudest word. But we have to be here to make sure that happens. As a person of faith and morality and conscience, which you are, you have this sacred spot to be standing in at the intersection of your life and other people's, of your woundedness and other people's wounds, of your fears and other people's terrors. It's a place where we shouldn't tread lightly. It's a place where we should be gentle with other people. That's why I wear this shirt, because I want to remember that everyone around me is feeling the worries and the wounds of their life that I really know nothing about. But I also want to remind them that I'm just like them. I think it makes me softer. I think it makes me more compassionate. And that's where I want to have a time of meditation today. I want you to stop where you are and just to rest and close your eyes if it's helpful. I want you to breathe slowly. And I want you to think about your life. No one else's right now. You, your heart. And I want you to acknowledge where you're playing hurt right now. What are your wounds? What are your stresses and your worries? Where have you experienced loss? What are the physical wounds that you're feeling? Where are the physical pains and the health threats that you're facing? Where are you suffering? I invite you right now to dwell on how you're playing hurt. Realize how much you've come through. Realize how difficult the days are that you're enduring. And to be grateful for the fact that you are here, that you have survived, that you are making it. I want you to take a few minutes and we'll all just rest in the silence of that, and I'll have Ken bring us back.